Welcome to Good Stories. I'm David Haznaw, and on the other end is my longtime friend and writing partner, Marlene Byrne. Hi, Marlene.
Hey, good morning.
This series is dedicated to good stories, and specifically writing good stories. In each segment, we'll ask and answer one question about storytelling, writing, and all things related. Let's get started. When do you know you're hearing or reading a good story?
I think there's two different things there, right? So when I'm hearing a good story, it's something that makes me lean in and I'm like, I got questions. I want to know what's going on there. But when I know it's a good enough story to actually write about or to be something maybe larger than just, something to talk about, is when there seems to be different elements of it. Any good read sort of brings you up and down on that roller coaster, usually 3 times. So when you start to hear a story where like something happened and then this happened and something happened and then this happened, you almost start to feel like you're on that roller coaster, right? So when you do that, that's when something in my head says, wait a second, this is something that could be really interesting to put down in words.
I like that. That's great. I agree. I think, I always look at it as you kind of talk about the wave of going back and forth, and then what I also like about what is a good story to me is things that has nuance, and in other words, it's stuff that doesn't always hit you directly in the face, or maybe I don't even get it when I first read it, but down the road, maybe 2 pages or a chapter or later, it all comes back around. And so I think sometimes a good story doesn't present itself right away, or in the context. You have to let it play out sometimes. And as somebody who's a relatively impatient person in my life, it's taken me a long time as a reader and actually a writer to be patient and to let some of those things play out over time.
Right. The other thing that I always think about is, what about those characters? Because for me, I tend to fall in love with people when I read books and stories and movies and TV for sure. I mean, think about some of the great TV shows right now where the characters are just, you fall in love with Moira on Schitt's Creek. It doesn't matter, you just fall in love with her. At first you're like, what? And then you can't stop, listening and watching and wondering what she's going to put on as her next outfit. So I think that's part of it too. Does the story have the ability to give you a character or someone where you're going to lean in and really connect with that person? And people connect with different characters in a book or in a movie or in a TV show, but they have to have some personality. They have to have some interest that kind of keeps you wondering about them or connects you to them. And I think that's the other part of a really good story.
I agree. And I guess what we're getting at, we could talk about this forever, but there are so many elements to a good story, and everybody's good story is different, right? It's because it's subjective. We all have our own things, but there are some things that I think are relatively universal. I'm big on dialogue too, and the quality of the dialogue and the realism of the dialogue within the contents of a story, whether it's nonfiction or fiction. So I appreciate your insight on this. I certainly respect and value your opinion, and I'm really glad that we could do this today. And that was some great stuff, Marlene.
Yeah, thanks. It's always great to talk with you, David, and keep inspiring people to write good stories.
And you as well. Thanks. And the gang, that's how we do it. Thanks for watching. We hope to see you next time at Writing Good Stories. For more about reading, telling, and writing good stories, visit goodstoriespublishing.com.